Oscar Wilde once wrote, "When the gods wish to punish us, they give us what we want." And man, is that true for this movie. All right, what's up, everybody? So this is my review of Obsession, written and directed by Curry Barker. And he did a movie in 2024 called Milk and Cereal, which didn't pop up on my radar, but this one definitely did. And I was completely shocked and also impressed that he's a YouTuber. Now, that's no knock against YouTubers, obviously, but it's an interesting transition when you go from making content that YouTube is known for and then making movies, you know? But at the same time, if you think about it, there is a natural progression there. You still have to, present a story in a way that is engaging for the audience. You still have to know how to put a story together. So the elements are actually there. I just didn't expect the movie to be this good, especially his second time around. And everything works. There's the story, there's the performances, there's how everything is put together. It's just a home run, if I'm going to use a sports analogy. The premise of the movie is you have this character, Bear, played by, his name is Michael Johnston, and he's a bit of a loser. Doesn't really have much going for him, but he has this huge crush on this coworker, Nikki, played by Inde Navarrette. And he just can never build up the courage to talk to her, tell her how he feels, ask her out on a date, or any of those things. And so at one point he is in this store and he comes across one of these novelty toys called One Wish Willow. And you make a wish and then you break it in half and your wish comes true. And after one particular moment of desperation, he's like, I just want Nikki to love me more than anyone has ever loved anybody ever. Crack. And then not only does the toy break, but basically everything else in the movie is broken in some way, shape, or form from that moment on. And she becomes, at first it's just fine, like there's intense and he is enjoying it. And then the intensity is kicked up a couple notches that is way beyond anything you would ever think of. She becomes very needy, very clingy, obsessive, hence the name of the movie, and psychotic, to be very honest. And there's so much about this that works particularly. Actually, first and foremost, let's talk about the performances, because man, are they just off the charts. Michael Johnston does a great job playing that very desperate and lowly and just got nothing going for him, loser, as I said before. And he plays that very well. And really, this movie is a commentary on those kind of guys who is like, he wants to project all of the responsibility of relationship and attraction onto the woman and have her decide instead of him taking the lead. Improving himself, making himself interesting enough so that she can be attracted to him. And so when she actually does do that and become attracted to him, it's just wild in so many different ways and so uncomfortable in so many scenes. There's that common trope where, if you just started dating a girl and you kind of want to see whether or not she actually likes you, you just tell a joke that is not really funny, but if she laughs a lot, then it's like, oh, so she really is interested in me. There's a moment where that happened, and then Inde Navarrette's just laughs long and loud, and it's so noticeably uncomfortable that you start laughing just to kind of release the tension that you're feeling in that moment. There's this other moment where they're watching TV together, bundled up, and she just stares at him and he kind of just turns her head like, okay, let's watch TV now, and she just does an absolutely amazing performance here, right? It reminded me a lot of the kinds of suspense thrillers that came out in the 90s, where you have, Single White Female with Bridget Fonda and Jennifer Jason Leigh, or The Crush. That's the first one that I thought about, with Alicia Silverstone and Carrie Elways. There's some others as well that I can't really think of off the top of my head, but those two definitely pop up. And then you add the horror element to it, where particularly this is very, very violent and gory moment in the movie that is done in such an over-the-top way, and you can tell it's on purpose to make the audience uncomfortable. And man, does Curry Barker succeed. And so there's so many things that work, and I just really appreciate. It seems like he really took care to make the script foolproof. Basically, there's not any leaps of logic. Everything is kind of self-contained. The rules of the game are well established. There's even the very, very important one that I kind of glossed over, where at one point Bear calls the company that made the One Wish Willow and is like, "How do I undo this? Like, what do I have to do to take back the wish?" And the voice on the other end of the line says, basically the wish ends when one of you dies. So the stakes are very, very high. It's kind of a feeling that is relatable in the sense, if you are at any time kind of nervous to talk to somebody or make that decision or make that first step to do something and you don't have the guts to do it, like, what are you going to do? Out of desperation, what actions will you take, And it seems like, in this case, Bear took the easy way and truly paid for it, I was very, very impressed. I highly recommend this movie. Believe it or not, I think it's actually a really good date movie, despite, all of the relationship issues. But it does kind of make for some interesting relationship conversations that might happen after the fact, after the date that you have. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What about you guys? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, click subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.